So here's part 2 of our talk about multitasking. I hope you're following along with our slides. The slides are at bit.ly MTIORG 2013. And we're in the middle of discussing Nicholas Carr's argument that we are becoming superficial, spread too thin, and part of this craving for multitasking is a bad thing. My suggestion was it is possible that our attempt to focus, for example, using single function devices like the wristwatch and focusing on just one thing, might not be the best strategy in a world where we need more multitasking, in a world where we have more information accumulating to deal with. In that world, it might be nice to crave serenity, but it might be more likely that we need to develop multitasking. So I would suggest parallel thinking is, rather than being the bad guy, might be the good guy in this story. That disturbances and interruptions are something that we might be even able to minimize or lower if we had more things done at once. So there's an old Judaic saying, and there's some equivalents in other languages, no talking at the dinner table. And I wonder how many of you follow this edict. Should we really shush everybody and eat in silence, as perhaps was the custom back in older days? Or should we actually be able to talk and chew? Maybe observing some politeness and keeping our mouths closed, but do we want to observe silence, or do we want to enjoy company? How do you feel about Starbucks telling its baristas no more multitasking, disallowing the baristas from dealing with more than one cup at a time? Well, if you're a barista, you might like this request or order, but if you're tenth in line and waiting for one cup at a time linearly created, you might be at this point craving a little bit more multitasking. I warmly recommend A.J. Jacobs' book, The Guinea Pig Diaries, My Life as an Experiment. And in that book, I most recommend a chapter called The Unitasker, where he shows us how funny it is if we insist on following the suggestion that we do not multitask at all. So multitasking is an understandable goal, but it's probably not an advisable strategy for everyone. The unitasker is actually pretty funny and ridiculous. Research shows that very few people can multitask purely, although some people can. So let's not discount multitasking as a fact. Some people, a small percentage, are able to multitask clearly. There's some interesting research by Cliff Nass and Ophir that looks at those who excel in multitasking and their characteristics. So we do have people who excel in multitasking. There's some research done here in Israel by Traktinsky and Shinar that shows that under some contexts where there are tasks that are familiar and where the information flow is fairly constrained, multitasking doesn't result in more problems. It actually results in less problems. The paradigm for the experiment is that people are asked to walk around and also talk on their phone, and they actually bump into objects placed in their path. They actually bump less into these objects. There's common knowledge and also research supporting the fact that women know how to multitask at least more than men. Not only do they know how to do it in traditionally female gender-oriented tasks, but this is a non-sexist finding. Actually, women are better at multitasking in the context of mathematics and navigation tasks. So there are supertaskers that can do well. There are women who do, half the population, the human population on this earth, who do better in multitasking. Children are able to do multiple things at once. At least they do it better than their parents and adults in the area. The culture, therefore, is actually rife with examples of multitasking as a possibility. We admire jugglers for what essentially is a set of multitasking skills. We admire pilots for their ability to split attention, deal with multiple dials, and multitask. We admire virtuoso pianists and other artists who are able to do things with two hands, do different things with two hands, who are able to multitask. We admire people in sports who are able to do more than one thing at once. And these are not necessarily super taskers. These are just people who are well trained in one or another task that can be done better if more things are done at once. So we admire women for this. We admire younger people for this. We admire jugglers for this. We admire virtuoso pianists for this. If we admire all of these people, why not aspire for their skill, even if not all of us can achieve it all the time? I propose we aim for the higher standards of women, children, virtuosos, supertaskers, and the like, rather than constrain everyone with millennia-old precepts that say, no, we can never achieve it. Should we reach for an improvement, that is, attempt more multitasking, or should we discourage everyone, telling them it is not possible, will never happen? Scientific American came out with an issue about multitasking masters, talking about ways in which the mind can be trained in those areas where some things can be done simultaneously. I would like to propose that more of these things, as time goes by, are possible. It is more possible as we go by to do this. I'm reminded of the Icarus and Daedalus myth, the mythology of this father and son who tried to spread their wings and fly up to the sun, and tragedy occurred to them. The moral of the story was, man is not made to fly, and he who tries dies. And I think the corollary in the context of multitasking is, just like the Icarus and Daedalus myth was devised to warn people against trying to fly, trying the impossible, I think much of the stories about multitasking are about warning people not to attempt multitasking because ill will befall them, in a context where it is becoming more possible. Just like flight was realized many, many centuries after this myth of Icarus and Daedalus, such multitasking can slowly, and maybe even more and more rapidly, become a reality for more people. We can ask about using computers in the context of learning, and I think that having a laptop, that is a distraction. Having a smartphone or a tablet that could cause interruptions are still an improvement on the learning space. I think that having a radio in the car is actually an improvement on the driving experience. I think that having a conversation at dinner is actually an improvement on the experience of social dining. I think there's a long list of examples that we can provide where what could be construed as interruptions might actually be understood as improvements, if we're only willing to let go of this sweeping denial of multitasking and replace it with an attempt to find those places where we can allow multitasking, support it, develop it, and so forth. Once again, the slides accompanying this talk are at bit.ly/MTIORG, all in caps, 2013, one stretch. My homepage is at rafaeli.net. I'm once again sorry for not being able to attend the webinar in live in real time, but I will be happy to hear from you. My address is on the homepage, and I am very grateful for your attention. I hope you all were focused on this and not multitasking at all, not doing a single other thing. Once again, a reminder, there's an extensive bibliography at the end of this pile of slides, lots of articles by leading researchers in the field, some work done at the Center for Internet Research, where I work at the University of Haifa. Thanks again, and happy focusing.